Hello and welcome to ADA Majlis program. Our media project is being realized as a platform of Institute for Development and Diplomacy in ADA University. I'm Anastasia Lavrina and our special guest today is Matthew Bryza, former US Ambassador to Azerbaijan, international expert. Hello Matthew and welcome.
Yeah, Anastasia, thank you. I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much. We're going to speak about very important issue. It's energy. You're an expert in this particular field. I will say you're an expert in many questions, but let's start with this. Just recently in Azerbaijan, it was Energy Week. There were a lot of experts, and we know that Azerbaijan is now being considered as an important partner for many European countries. Let's start with a broader question, like how will you evaluate the situation in Europe with the energy crisis, and then slightly moving to position of Azerbaijan.
Well, I've spent much of the last quarter century trying to persuade our European allies that they were much too dependent on Russia for their sources of energy, both oil, but mostly natural gas. And in the beginning, they didn't want to listen. And there's a moment I'll never forget. I was in Berlin in 2006, and I was at the Ministry of Economics and Energy, and I was explaining why we thought it would be better for NATO and for our relations together with Germany if Germany worked with us and with Azerbaijan to diversify its supplies of natural gas. And the senior official I was meeting with, deputy minister, was very polite, but I could see he was getting upset. And he finally said at the end, it's really, he said it more nicely than this, but it's really not your concern in the United States what our energy policy is. And I said, no, but it is, Mr. Minister, because we see that because of the business relationships and the energy supplies on which you're dependent with Russian entities, then the European Union began to realize, oh, wow, we've got to do many things. We need a third energy package, right, to unbundle the supplier of natural gas from the ones who generate electricity or move the gas within a country. We need to generally increase the market forces, reduce monopoly forces, and we need to begin moving away from dependence on Russian gas, not only by getting supplies of gas from somewhere else like Azerbaijan, but by being able to move that gas all throughout Europe based on price signals rather than monopoly pressure. The EU did a lot until February 24th of this year, but never enough. And evidence of that was that Germany wanted to go ahead with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline connecting Russia and Germany and bypassing the Baltic states and Ukraine. So now there's been a gigantic change. And we will see Europe reduce its consumption of Russian energy by 60% this year, 66%, and be completely independent of Russian energy by 2027, or that's the goal. Azerbaijan will hopefully play a big role in that. The key is to get production increased here in Azerbaijan because, at the moment, there's not a lot of gas available in Azerbaijan.
We'll come to this point as well. You mentioned energy. Europe did a lot, but still not enough. But even now, after the February 24, we know that there is no one particular direction all European countries are ready to follow. There are disagreements. For example, Hungary has totally different opinion about this. Do you think that Europe can come to one consensus?
They have. So Hungary, to me, did something really unhelpful for the European Union. It knew that the EU was desperate to maintain that consensus that you just mentioned on sanctions, on cutting off flows of Russian oil to the European Union. And I think Mr. Orban recognized that Hungary would get a huge monetary advantage if it is able to keep on buying Russian oil that others don't want to buy. Because if nobody else is buying the Russian oil in Europe, then Russia will sell it to Hungary at a deep discount. So for much lower than the price would have otherwise been. So not only does Hungary not have to go out and buy other oil or reinvest in its refineries to be able to use non-Russian oil, but it also is going to get to buy Russian oil cheaper than any of its European allies, and even cheaper than it would have if there had not been an EU embargo. So to me, that's a terrible example of not maintaining the solidarity of the European Union on Hungary's part, but everybody else stood together, including Germany, which agreed to stop taking oil via pipeline to its refineries. So it's a good moment for solidarity.
What about the currency? We know that Russia is ready to sell its oil and gas in rubles. Some countries are thinking that it's possible, even giving the right to the companies to buy in rubles, and some others are very strong and strict in this particular issue. So if some countries, even Hungary, will be ready to buy with rubles, how it can affect the future process?
So that whole issue is, to a certain extent, not so relevant in my mind, because the reason why the European Union came up with this penalty or sanction saying the transactions must be conducted just in the currency according to the contracts was for two reasons, actually. To make a point that Russia must play by the rules. If it signed contracts in euros or dollars, the payments have to be in euros or dollars. And also the European Union wanted to weaken the ruble, put pressure on the ruble. But in reality, because there's nothing really to buy with foreign currency right now, given all the other sanctions on Russia, international currencies like the euro or the dollar are losing value in Russia because, again, there's nothing to buy. So the ruble has gained in strength, and therefore, if the intention of the European Union is to weaken the ruble by insisting that payments be made in dollars or euros, as according to the contracts, it doesn't make sense if the ruble has regained in strength. But I do understand the point about sticking to the rules, and I think it's just wrong strategically.
Really, that's the next tricky question I want to ask you before we come to our region. In some countries, we know that the price for the energy sources, they were completely increased too much, and it can dissatisfy the population definitely.
Yeah.
Even in the United Kingdom, for example, we were so much dissatisfied. With this new policy direction, energy policy, which European Union may develop and follow in the future, how quick it can stabilize all of the prices, if it can?
Well, yeah, the prices are definitely going to increase. I mean, if you take a lot of supply of anything out of the market, the price will go up, right? And there's also, sometimes nervous buying or panic buying. And so if Europe wants to eliminate its purchases of all Russian oil by 2027 and 2/3 of Russian gas at the end of this year, the prices will definitely go up. Russia will be able to sell a lot of its oils into other markets, true, but again at a discount. So Russia will be having to, like right now the discount is around $20 per barrel. So even if Russia can sell its oil, it's getting less and less revenue for it. So, that's a positive impact. But regardless, prices are going up in Europe, and that generates great dissatisfaction. I completely agree with you. I mean, in the United States, where there's going to be an election to our Congress or Parliament this November, the most important issue for voters is inflation, is high prices. And the biggest driver of inflation now is energy prices. In the US, now we're the biggest producer in the world of oil and natural gas, but still, the oil price is a global price. So if the price of oil is going up due to less Russian supply, American consumers are hurt, and that means the Democratic Party is going to be hurt in the elections coming up. So there is that negative impact of the prices. But your question is about how quickly can Europe stabilize the situation? Well, if stabilize means reduce prices, the answer is only two answers, right? The price will go down when there's more energy in the market, and that'll take a few years, right? There needs to be big investment. I said in 2027 or so, there could be a lot more gas in Azerbaijan, but it's going to take years to attract the investment and bring the energy out of the ground. But what governments can do to help their consumers feel like their lives are more stable in terms of price rises is give them money. Subsidize the prices of other goods, even energy, or help people pay their other bills. And that's a common economic policy in many governments.
Well, we are slightly moving to our region, Baku Energy Week. We already mentioned it in the beginning of this program. Speaking at this important event, the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, mentioned that
Southern Gas Corridor is a project which we can be proud of, and at the same time it allows us to increase production from huge Chardonnay gas condensate field, and it happens. And it's only 1 year and 5 months that Azerbaijan is using this brand new modern infrastructure to transport its gas reserves, but already the expansion of our presence on European continent with our natural resources is something which is needed for us and for our partners.
Definitely, Azerbaijan is being considered as one of the key source for diversification for the future. How do you think it may happen? What exactly should be done from the side of Azerbaijan and the European Union itself to make this project stable, reliable, sustainable, and to definitely add some more?
Well, the Southern Corridor is stable and reliable, and it's operating great in a great way. And I'm really proud of it because, I mean, I mentioned the difficulties I had in trying to persuade our European allies to pursue what we called at the time a Southern Corridor to complement the Northern Corridor of Russian pipeline infrastructure. We're the ones who came up with that entire concept. And I'm thrilled that it's operative. As President Aliyev said today, since the last day of 2020, it's been operating. And it works great. I now work in the private sector, and I'm very interested in attracting gas into Europe, where my companies are. So it's working well, but it needs to be enlarged. Yes. So as the president said, the Trans-Adriatic pipeline is going to be doubled. Hopefully, the Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi has already asked for it to be doubled. But there needs to be more gas to put in it. So that's the other part. So there needs to be more investment upstream here in Azerbaijan. There are several fields that we all anticipate will be producing significantly more gas by 2027. Now all that investment has to happen. What's also interesting, what I learned today, in fact, is that the capacity of the South Caucasus gas pipeline, the first one we were all working on together, is just about full, just about all used up. And when it was built and when it was designed, a lot of people were saying, well, this is too big. Yeah, well, when is there ever going to be enough gas for it? Well, there already is enough for so that's the pipeline that goes from Azerbaijan to Georgia and into Turkey. So that's going to need to be expanded. But that's a simple task. Add more compressor stations, maybe lay another pipe next to the one that already exists. That's not difficult at all. But the other interesting thing President Aliyev said today was that maybe TANAP, which was definitely built way too big for the gas available at the time, but that it may soon need to be expanded in capacity. And that's the pipeline, of course, that crosses Turkey and goes into Greece. So we're at a moment where there's tremendous European demand for natural gas from non-Russian sources, and there's not enough of that gas out there. Azerbaijan is providing some. It's providing, compared with 155 billion cubic meters of natural gas that Europe received from Russia last year, the EU receives about 10 BCM from Azerbaijan. But that amount's going to increase. And my last point is, the gas coming from Azerbaijan is really significant in southeastern Europe, which has always been totally dependent on Russia. And now, for the first time, there's a chance to attract Azerbaijani gas to Bulgaria, to Greece, hopefully into Serbia, Romania, even up to Ukraine, based on market prices that are attractive due to Azerbaijan's future production, in addition to its current production.
Definitely. About the expansion of these pipeline as capacities, Azerbaijan, as you already mentioned, during all of these years, we're trying to not exactly to pursue it, but to show exactly how Azerbaijan is important and keen in some particular issues for the European states. And now many of these states who probably did not understand exactly the significance of this pipeline now can understand and accept this. What do you think the Europe itself should do? It's about investment, it's about the companies who should take a part in this process, and probably some more countries who may join the project. We discussed with you many times about the possibilities of Turkmenistan, maybe, or even Iran. But Iran is a bit tricky because there is no one-side approach for this particular issue. So these two questions, how you see?
Sure, and they're interrelated because another thing President Aliyev said today was European countries are beginning to, and countries of the region, Caspian countries, he meant Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, are beginning to look at Azerbaijan again as a transit country. And when I began working on Caspian energy issues in 1998 on natural gas, we thought of Azerbaijan as a transit country for Turkmenistani gas as well. Iran is the alternative. And moving Turkmenistani gas from fields in Turkmenistan into eastern Iran, and then moving an equivalent amount of Iranian gas up through a separate pipeline system in western Iran into Azerbaijan in Turkey is happening already. But it's happening in small volumes. So what the European Union, I think, would be great if it did, would be to invest and encourage investment in increasing the interconnectivity of Turkmenistan and Iran to Azerbaijan and Turkey, and help the Turkmenistani government feel comfortable in exporting more of its gas to Azerbaijan and beyond, to Turkey and the European Union space.
Well, when I say about the sustainability of this particular project, Salt and Gas Corridor, I guess we should also speak about security. That is a key element. European Union itself, the European countries, especially from the eastern part of Europe, they are interested to see the project to be secured. And it's much more dependent on the situation in the South Caucasus. We know that post-conflict development process, we do know Azerbaijan, since the end of the Second Karabakh War, are offering Armenia to think about the peaceful coexistence, and European Union itself is a good platform where already 3 meetings were held in Brussels with the participation of Charles Michel. How do you consider the role of the European Union? Because in my opinion, they should be more interested in security now than it was probably before, a year or 2 years ago.
I'm a big supporter of what the European Union and Charles Michel have been doing to help, well, essentially mediate between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Exactly.
I for years, going back to when I was ambassador here and I was co-chair of the Minsk group, I always thought it made more sense for the entire European Union to be the mediator rather than just one country, one member state of the European Union. Even though France is a really important country, it's just one country. And so I think now, both because of what's happened since the Second Karabakh War, but in general during the course of the last decade, the European Union has begun to treat Azerbaijan more as a partner rather than as a student. The slogan of the European Union toward Azerbaijan and the whole Eastern Partnership used to be more for more. We give you more, I don't know what more they give, affection toward the countries of the Eastern Partnership. If Azerbaijan, for example, does more on political and economic reform. And that always was irritating to the people I knew in senior levels of the Azerbaijani government, because they say, we're not asking for anything from you. So we don't need more. We don't even know what you're giving us. Now they relate to each other in more of an equal basis and as partners, like in the United Nations, right? Every country is equally important, has equal rights. It's more like that now, I think, in the EU-Azerbaijani relationship, and that's very healthy. That's how it should be. And I think that now, hopefully, yes, the European Union cares about security of pipelines, et cetera, but it's gone even beyond that in the European strategic mind. I think European strategic thinkers think the EU itself can be what it has never been before, which is a geopolitical player for the cause of peace and prosperity and stability.
So it's more now about mutually beneficial partnership between two sides.
Yeah.
Definitely. About the United States of America, I would also like to speak with you. We saw in the last letters sent by US President to President Aliyev on the occasion of 28th May.
Yep.
And then after there was another statement and a letter from US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. In both statements, they were, among other arguments, definitely they were also about the importance of Azerbaijan for European energy security. And in his particular message, Antony Blinken said that Azerbaijan and US become strong partners in promoting European energy security. How exactly the United States may play its own role to make Azerbaijan more beneficial for European energy security, and how do you see this further cooperation between two sides?
Well, I think we've already done that. I mean, if you go back and look at every single one of those letters, including the one that was read today by Deputy Assistant Secretary Lachman in the presence of President Aliyev, every communication from the President of the United States or Secretary of State to their Azerbaijani counterparts has always said, we're doing important work together on European energy security. President Aliyev said today that he wanted to give special thanks to the United States for all of its help. So I think the United States has kind of made its huge contributions, and now it's time for the European Union to decide to be more active, which it is starting to do. The United States can help by being politically supportive of that, by providing comfort as well to, as we were talking about before, Turkmenistan and not opposing Turkmenistan, Iran, Azerbaijan gas flows. The U.S. can do that. But I think now really is the time for the European Union to do more of what it's been doing. Step up, lead, whether it be on security with regard to Karabakh or securing the energy supplies that we told you 25 years ago you need to start focusing on. Now do it. Invest in it. Get your, the EBRD, the EIB to invest as they have been. They have been doing so. But remain focused now. A priority being to bring more natural gas from here, from the Caspian region, even as the European Union is working on renewable energy and the global energy transition.
Yeah, that's another key element. Renewable energy. The United States of America is also keen to support Azerbaijan in this particular sphere.
Yeah.
And we know renewable energy is one of the key priorities for Azerbaijan to be developed and liberated territories.
Yes.
So probably here also one of the sphere where European Union, United States and Azerbaijan, I mean the companies particularly can cooperate.
Yeah, I think so. If you're an American company, though, you're based in the world's largest market. And the U.S. economy is bigger than anyone's, right? Still bigger than China's, way bigger than anyone else's. So American companies, it's easiest for them to work in the United States. But sure, there will be some here, but it's the investors in renewables are most likely going to be closer ones. So the Turks, so Turkey, and European companies, yeah. And hopefully there'll be some U.S. involvement. I certainly want to be involved, but I'm based in Turkey now.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining our program today. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Anastasia. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to remind, we had our special guest, Matthew Bryza, former U.S. Ambassador to Azerbaijan and international expert. It was the Majlis media program. Stay with us and see you in the next edition.